Welcome back to another innovation review. Today we're going to take a look at the Magicycle Cruiser. All right, so first things first, let's check out the company. Let's see what the website looks like, and then we'll go from there. So right over here, I've got the Magicyclebike.com pulled up. We've got the pre-sale for the Cruiser right here. Right now, they are selling it for $1,199. So let's take a look around and see what that is going to get you. Got a couple of pictures here. Go ahead and scroll through some of those. So it looks like it comes with quite a few accessories. We've got a cap. It's got the repair tool, probably also going to be used for the assembly. We've got a front pannier bag. We've got an alarm, a password lock. We've got fenders, a rear rack, a front light, and a rear light. So it'll be interesting to see if those lights are integrated into the battery. As you guys know, we like to see that on these sort of bikes. So let's keep on scrolling here. We have got this very familiar cockpit here. It looks pretty much identical to the Himaway Cruiser. It looks like the keypad's a little bit different and the display is a little bit different, but we do have those faux leather grips and the twist throttle and our good friend, the SIS index shifter. We can keep going over here. Shows us the display powered on. So it looks like we've got a color display that's going to show us quite a few things. Also has a clock on there, it looks like. That is a nice addition. Going to show us down here. We've got majority of the drivetrain in focus here, that 750 watt motor. Now, one of the things to note kind of right out the bat is most of the time we see the 750 watt motors paired with a 48 volt battery, but with the Magicycle Cruiser, it does come with a 52 volt battery. So that is something right out of the gate. Seems like we're going to be getting a lot of power and a lot of time and miles out of this battery. So that looks like it is it for the pictures. Let's go ahead and pop up here. It looks like we've got 52 volt battery, a 750 watt Shangyi motor with 86 newton meters of torque. That is pretty nice. 7 levels of pedal assist. Probably something we can get in there and change if we wanted to. We've got this color LCD, max range of 60 miles, and a frame size of 18 inches. Let's go ahead and go down. A couple things to note here. We've got a 2-year warranty on the bike, which is pretty impressive. We've seen some that have 6-month warranties, 1-year warranties. So it's cool that they've got, this 2-year warranty here. We've got a 15-day free trial and shipping, which is nice. Now, if you don't want to assemble the bike yourself, if you feel like that's something you can't take care of, they do have this option over here where you can have it assembled by Velo Tooler for $142.50. Not sure where that 50 cents is coming from. Probably makes more sense to round it up, but that's what it is, $142.50. Heading down a little bit further, we've got some of those motor specs we talked about. Over here, we've got that 52 volt, 15 amp hour battery. Now that is 3 to 5 hours for a charge, which is pretty impressive. Now 15 amp hours, definitely kind of middle of the road when it comes to e-bike batteries, but it is 52 volts and it does charge in a fairly reasonable amount of time. According to this, we should be able to get 35 to 60 miles, and again, it kind of talks about 7 speeds. It looks like it supports up to 275 pounds. Now, I would be willing to guess that you could probably fit a little bit more than 275 on there. We've got this fairly decently built frame from the looks of it, and we've got those big tires. So with all that air volume, it could allow us to, probably push that 275 just a little bit. And then we go ahead and scroll further down. Talks about the leather handles. We have got an integrated bike bell, which is nice. Some of those that come on the brake handles are actually fairly decent quality and actually pretty loud. So it's cool that they have that here. We have got the LED light switch, which leads me to believe that that front line is probably integrated. 7-speed Shimano SIS index shifter over here. We have got mechanical disc brakes and that half twist throttle on the right-hand side. Getting down here to the motor, it looks like we've got a nice little display, lots of lightning going around, lots of power in there, so that's kind of cool. Then we're going to talk about the battery. So we've got this 52 volt, 15 amp hour lithium ion battery. Now this does have a 2-year warranty on it. Again, nice to see 780 watt hours of capacity, which is quite a bit. Normally, I think we see them anywhere between 600 to 700, give or take, just kind of middle of the road. So having 780 watt hours here is pretty nice. We scroll down a little bit. This is when it's going to start talking about what we're going to be able to see on this monitor. So it's going to show us our battery capacity, pedal assist level, USB charging, which is nice. So there's probably a USB port on here. A nice little feature to have. We've got the odometer, a speedometer, and the watt meter. So a lot of bikes will come and they will have the capabilities to show the watt meter, but most of them only will show errors, if there's any errors in there. So having the option to see how many watts we're pulling is nice. There's a lot of people that like to see that so they can know exactly what they're doing down there. So here we go. This answers my question. We've got the integrated front light and brake light. We have got a little button here. Let's see. Let's turn them on. Oh, we got to slide it or press it on. There you go. Okay, so then it's going to show us what the lights look like at night. According to this computer graphic, they are very bright. So it would be interesting to see exactly how bright these are on the road. It is awesome that we do get them integrated here into the battery. So we've got these 26 by 4 inch Kenda puncture resistant tires, and it looks like from the pictures we do have that sidewall reflective stripe. Oh, there you go, sidewall reflective stripe, so that is cool. We have got 180 millimeter disc brakes instead of 160, so not 205, but it's nice that we do have some bigger disc brakes here. We have got this Shimano 7-speed gear system that we've talked about. Let's see about that front fork. So it looks like the front fork it comes with. So this front fork here, it looks like we have got preload adjustment and lockout, and it comes with 80 millimeters of travel. Now, if you were going to be taking this off of big drops or anything like that, you probably would want a little bit more than 80 millimeters of travel, but for tackling some of that rugged terrain, 80 millimeters is nice, especially when we've seen some of these other forks coming at the low end. You know, they'll have 60 millimeters of travel, if that. So 80, I feel like, is a pretty decent spot to start with. Down here, we've got this saddle with the lifting handles, what they call it. I guess I didn't really have a name for it, but I love those handles. If you have to maneuver the bike around, it's just such a great spot to grab it and, you know, move the back tire around if you're maneuvering around cars or in the garage, places like that. And then we've got this rear rack. So the rear rack that they have, it looks like we have quite a few mounting options. It's probably going to come with those straps that go off the back. Personally, I haven't found those to be super useful, just in the bikes that I've tested and the ways that I've tried to use it. But it is nice to have there if you do, you know, need to attach something to there, or if something's a little bit smaller. They do have a couple good spots here for attaching some pannier bags too, and it is a little bit thicker. So we do get some of these racks that are quite thin. The tubing on the steel is, very thin and looks a little bit fragile maybe, but this one, it looks like we've got some thicker, beefier rack tubes there, so that's kind of nice. Now, if we scroll down a little bit further, this is where we're going to get into the specifications. We've talked about most of this. One of the ones that we haven't discussed is the weight of the bike. So we've got that big 52-volt battery and, big tires, big frame. We've got the rack on there, so it looks like they're saying the bike's going to weigh about 75 pounds. Now, that's a little bit on the heavier side when you look at other bikes like the Himaway Cruiser. I think the Himaway Cruiser was a little bit less than that. Some of those bigger Rusher bikes, I think, also come in a little bit under that 75-pound mark. But this does have a bigger battery, so it sort of makes sense that we would see a little bit extra weight here. There's a couple of extra specifications down here that we haven't talked about yet. The bike frame looks like it's made of 6061 aluminum, which is nice, very standard. Most bikes, unless they're carbon fiber, are going to be made out of this. It looks like that front light is a 6-volt LED light. They don't necessarily talk about the lumens, so it would be interesting to see how bright that really is once we get our hands on the bike. The chain it comes with is a KMC chain. Pretty standard. I believe we've seen some of those on bikes before. On the seat post here, it looks like we've got a diameter of 30.8 millimeters, which is fairly common as far as size goes. If you wanted to add, say, a seat post suspension or something like that, that is something you could probably do with this bike. It's not something where it's too small, where you can only find one or two, or too big to where nobody makes them. It feels like you'd be able to find something if you wanted to add some extra suspension to your ride here. Now we're getting down here to the geometry section, and there's a few of these measurements that I really want to look at. We have got G, that is going to be our standover height. So the standover height on the standard model is 31.5 inches. Now up here, I do have open the step-thru version. So we can go ahead and scroll down to the same spot here. And looks like our step-thru on this is going to be 31.5 inches. Now, so it looks like they have them listed both at 31.5 inches, but if I had to guess based on the pictures of the regular version versus the standover height on this one, this is probably at 31.5 inches, but it drops off pretty quick, and it looks like it comes down quite a ways. So if we had to make an educated guess on the step-thru height, I'm guessing that would probably take off a solid 5 to 6 inches based on the design. And then down here towards the seat, it looks like we're going to be gaining even more than that. But you would be getting a little bit close to the saddle, so it probably wouldn't make sense to list that as the standover height getting close to here. Just kind of an awkward position to be getting on and off the bike from. But if you find that standover height to be a little bit too tall, that 31.5 inches on the standard, you do have that step-through version as well. The other geometry measurement that I would be interested in looking at is the reach. They don't necessarily have the reach on this chart, but they do give us that top tube length at 23.5 inches. So based on how straight up and down this ride looks like it is going to be, that is probably pretty close, probably a little bit less than that for the reach there, which is pretty standard. We've seen some that are 17, 18, 19, and those are, pretty short as far as the reach goes. So having that 20-ish reach is pretty reasonable. So we come down here to customer reviews. We have zero reviews on this bike. How can that be? Well, as I mentioned, this bike has not come out yet, so that makes sense. Next, let's go over a document I was sent over by the company. So it looks like the company here was founded in 2020, which was last year, but it looks like they've been in the e-bike space for about 10 years. So we're getting 10 years of experience going into building this bike. So hopefully they've been able to see some of the things that maybe went wrong in the past, with other brands, and, they can fix that. They can bring this bike to market and we can all enjoy it and have a good time. It looks like Magicycle's manufacturers based out of China. They have got a warehouse that covers 10,000 square feet. They have 150 employees and an annual output of over 300,000 units. I don't know how that compares to some of the other manufacturers for these different brands, but it seems like they're going to be able to put out quite a bit of bikes, which is excellent. Then they talk about some of the tests that they perform on the bike before it is packaged. They do a frame fatigue test. They also do a 21% grade climbing test. They do a front fork impact test, handlebar riser fatigue test, a riding test. Each bike rides up to 500 to 1,000 meters. Then they also do a packaging drop test. So it is nice here that they're doing a couple little extra quality control things to make sure that when we get the bikes, they are the bikes that we ordered in the shape that they sent them out. One of the cool things about Magicycle is they do design and build all of their bikes in their own warehouse, which is nice because a lot of those e-bike companies are really just middlemen for other middlemen. So it is nice that we see, a company that's saying, hey, we want to design this bike, we're going to do this, we're going to build the bike here, we're going to ship the bike out. So you are getting that sort of creative control, that quality control from, concept of designing the bike to, putting the bike out at the end. So in closing, there are a few things that I would like to discuss. Number one, as we mentioned, this isn't a bike that we have reviewed. Magicycle reached out to us and they asked if we wanted to review one of these bikes, and so they should be sending one of those out in a little bit. They also asked us to do a review of the bike kind of before we get it, so I'm calling this a pre-review. So we haven't actually got our hands on the bike, and we're just talking about some of the components and seeing, where it could go as far as how it's going to function and a general sense of the ride in general. Really hard to tell online just based on a couple of pictures and the specs, but based on the components we have here, it looks like that $1,200 is going to be quite a deal for this bike when you compare it to either the Rad Rover or the Himaway Cruiser. It looks like you're going to be able to get a little bit more bang for your buck than with those other companies. Now, like I said, the company still has to prove itself. The company's still got to ship these out. They've still got to deliver on their promises for all those things to make sense. But if they are able to produce the bikes, they are able to get them to customers, they're able to support the bike, that $1,200 is actually a pretty decent deal. Personally, I'm excited to review this bike, so when they do end up sending us one, we're going to hand measure everything, hand weigh everything. Then we're going to take it out for the ride test, which is probably my favorite part, and let you guys know what we think about the whole experience. All right, guys, that is going to do it for our pre-review of the Cruiser from Magicycle. If you guys want to know more, I'll have a link to all of Magicycle's stuff down below. And if you guys have any questions or concerns in the comments, let me know. Love talking to you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.